Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our review of The Mean One.
You're a dead one, mister.
Okay, so this one we have been pretty excited for, I would say. This is, we talked about this on the Sunday Scaries a few months back when this was supposed to be releasing for free, I believe, was the initial report sometime around Christmas. We got a report a few weeks ago saying that this would be getting a theatrical release, which excited us because it's like, okay, that's cool. It's a parody film. It looks pretty neat. Just from the images that we saw. And then that trailer hit, and we did a little reaction breakdown to it. And we were pretty happy with what we saw. I mean, like, it looked like it was right up our alley, looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. And that's really all this film needed to be, was just gory, fun, whimsical, don't take itself too seriously, and let's just fucking go in and have a crazy fun time. Luke, how was The Mean One for you?
This one didn't really hit for me. And it's like one of those, it has, we said it, you said it in the short, it has a low bar for us. Just has to be fun, a little bit of a gore fest. There's just a couple of boxes this has to check, and this one didn't really check them.
Yeah, for me, this was definitely a disappointment. And it's again a low bar. Like, this was something that I'm not expecting. A high quality horror flick here. It's like I don't need it to be that. But like for what we got, it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, I definitely see why reports were saying this was going to come out for free at first, because yeah, there's some aspects of this that are really well done. For instance, I think the makeup on David Howard Thornton looks great as the Grinch character. I mean, he's fine. He does a serviceable job. But where this film really lost me, and I think you said it best on our drive back, was that it got pretty boring as the film went along. And then what really sent me over the edge and not having such a fun, witty time is just that all of the gore and the stuff you go for when you think killer Grinch film. I would destined to say that 90% of it is all CGI blood, and it is some of the worst CGI blood I've ever seen. Like it looks like jelly at times. I don't know if that was intentional to kind of go with the Grinch feel to it, but it's just really goofy, and it doesn't look convincing at all. And I just don't understand that choice. That really took me out every time we would get into an action sequence or a slaughter sequence. When that would happen, I was just completely sucked out and just not happy with what I was seeing.
Yeah, and that's where it's like I don't know what I was expecting 100%. I would thought maybe they would use the CGI stuff sparingly, but it seemed as the film was going on, it was more and more evident. Where it's like you look at something like a Terrifier 2, and I know those are low budget, but probably not, especially Terrifier 2, not as low budget as The Mean One, but it's like they do the gore the best, especially that first Terrifier has a low budget. So it's like, and they make it look good with practical. So it's like, you think, we talked about it on the ride back where the idea of wanting to do this, tongue-in-cheek kind of horror film based on a kid's book, the kind of minds that are behind that, you think they would have wanted to go practical with it. But this was heavy CGI. It did not look good. It takes you out of the gore that you're expecting when that happens. It just doesn't moment anymore, I don't think. So for me, that the gore even in this didn't even hit. And to me, I guess I was expecting maybe a little bit more gore throughout everything, because we had talked about it again, and I wasn't looking for an in-depth story here. I was from the trailer, from what's being set. You're looking for a pretty basic idea here in terms of uh, Cindy, you know who, and the Mean One. It's like that's the bread and butter. That's the marquee. That's what we're going to see. And we spend a lot of time getting there, and then when we do, it's a very short in and out, I feel.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more there. I mean, like they do take a lot of time to get there, and I don't mind that normally when it comes to like building up your characters and stuff. But it just never really felt like we were doing anything meaningful with them. It was just a lot of conversations that revolved around what this creature is, and everybody just kind of having the same conversation over and over again of who is he, what is he, what does he want, all this stuff. And they kind of try to throw in a little bit of a twist, but even then, like, once that's all said and done, you're kind of just over it at that point. You're just kind of like, okay, that didn't really save the movie for me or anything. It didn't really even progress the story that hard for me. And overall, I'm sitting here shaking my head just wondering, how did we get this far to where we're funding a Grinch slasher flick parody, and we're just really taking what everybody's here to see and kind of throwing it on to the B plot and throwing it off to the side. Like, we're here to see the Grinch murder people with great practical effects. That's literally all this film had to be, and it just had to be a bloody good time. And like I said, I think for me, who's not much of a gore hound, I would say, I love my gore and stuff like that. I love that in my horror movies, but I like the scares and the chills more. This, I fully knew what I was getting into. I wanted it to just be a fun, dumb, like, let's just fucking throw all the guts and brains at the screen that we can, and they're such a disappointment. And it's one of those things where it's like, when that lets you down, suddenly I have a harder time forgiving, the other low grade effects, and the acting that isn't the highest caliber of quality when it comes to that. Like, I don't want to disparage any of the actors too hard. I mean, like, this is clearly a very low budget film. Some of them, this may even be their first film, or they've done a handful of smaller roles. So it's like, I'll give them a pass to that effect. But when you're left with just that and the kills don't pay off, it's pretty dull. It's a really tough slog to get through.
Yeah, and the beauty of this idea here, and same with like, we look at the Winnie the Pooh, the Neverlands, the Bambis of the table is already set for the audience. Like looking at the mean one, and we go through that trailer, and they focus on him. That night everyone knows the story, and then something wrong. That's the only hook that we really needed here in terms of get the story moving a little bit. I felt, and I thought that's really what we were going to only get. But then, yeah, you're talking about they added in a little extra story there where I didn't feel that was needed, and it really kind of made a little bit of a lull in kind of the storytelling and getting the audience to where they thought they were going to be probably 20 minutes into this film. And that's where it's like I wasn't expecting a lot of this film. So I'm not really judging it based on like I thought this was going to be an A+ film. I was expecting great storytelling. Again, I just wanted it to lean heavy into the holiday horror, which I didn't think we really got. They kind of take the idea of Christmas off the table for the majority of this film, which was a big disappointment to me. I thought we were going to be
Mm.
dropped into a very heavy Christmas kind of town, and we didn't get that. I thought they were going to make better use of David Howard Thornton. Just with, we're used to Terrifier and Art the Clown and his body movements and what the personality he brings with not even speak. I thought maybe we would even get a little speaking form dialogue from him in this, and we didn't really get any of that either. He just kind of played this character that, almost anyone could have been in that suit. I feel, they didn't let him show a lot of his personality. So, I think they missed the boat on that one. The gore, I thought we get way more unique kills than we did. And again, like we said, the practical effects, I thought that's what we were going to be leaning heavily into here. And we didn't really get any of that. So, I mean, high expectations, but there were some expectations of things where it's like, oh, well, the people creating this have to be horror fans, and they probably have the same idea of what we're looking for as to what they want to tell, and we didn't get any of that. So yeah, leaving the theater, I was pretty disappointed in terms of what we did actually get.
I agree. And I really hate to say that, because it's just like, this was something I was really looking forward to. Whether we saw it for free or we went to the theater and paid for it, like I was really looking forward to a Grinch horror film. We talk about this kind of stuff where like these concepts are interesting if executed well. And, this one to me really seemed like, okay, this seems like a great starting point. This, the character is already kind of a, darker character in the essence of just him hating Christmas. So it's like it's an easy switch to pull or to flip. And again, it just was one of those things where I'm like, man, like I feel like so much got left on the table here. And I just wish that it was a little bit more um consistent with its sense of just like we're going to really give you the Grinch here. He's going to be doing all these really great practical gory effects. And it's just to me, we just didn't get any of that. And like I said, if you have a lesser story and a lesser cast and, just a lesser budget in general, we're kind of relying on the gore. We're kind of relying on the slasher sequences and they don't hit. I can't think of one that really gave me that, oh, that's cool or oh, that's interesting kind of feel. It was all just kind of all right, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it looks so abundantly fake and it was
Yeah.
so upsetting.
And that's where it takes it out of the enjoyable factor of it. Like, we weren't huge fans of the original Terrifier, but the gore effects in that work really well. So it's like, even if it's showcase, you can get lost in those moments and say, well, they had some pretty good kills here. Whereas in the mean one, you're focusing so heavily on that CGI and the kind of the mess that they present on screen and the fakeness that is coming through. It takes you out of the enjoyability of just that moment. So it's like you're kind of rolling your eyes as they're trying to get going, and it's like they didn't really ever lean into the almost the zaniness that I was hoping they would as well. uh, there are jokey moments into it. I don't think they necessarily worked. I think they had a little bit of a problem kind of telling the exact tone that they wanted to, because some of the more like comedy elements they play off as serious and they don't lean enough into the comedy, and then they don't lean enough into the horror of it. So it just kind of leaves this tonal mess a little bit where I don't really know what I'm supposed to be feeling from scene to scene. I think they big try to tell a more in-depth story than maybe they should have. I think they probably should have just said it should have just been less is more. So it's like, we only need a couple of characters and then really get going with that gore fest. But we never really got there.
Yeah, and I mean, I really, again, I wish I could be saying more positive things about this, but to me, it's overall a pretty big disappointment. So for me, I can't suggest going out and seeing this in theaters. Again, do with what you please with your money, but if you're looking for kind of a recommendation, I'm not going to tell you to go seek this out in theaters. If you're really that interested, I would wait to rent it and rent it pretty cheap because, again, I don't think you're going to get what you're looking for here. And I really didn't want to say that. I really wanted to come out of this and say this is a bright spot to my December. I mean, I was really looking forward to this movie. Like I was hyped. And it's just one of those things where it's like, to me, it just I don't see myself even wanting to go back and revisit this movie. And again, that has nothing to do with this thing being low budget. Like we
Not at
expected
all.
that. We knew what we were getting into. It's just the level of just like, again, disappointment when it comes to the execution is just, even at that low frame and that low bar, it just didn't hit. It just did not get there. And I'm just upset. I just walked away out of that theater and I was just like, man, I really wanted this to kick some fucking ass. And it wasn't even one of those things where I'm like, oh, that wasn't the greatest, but like I'll watch it again. It's like, no, I wanted this to be something that I pick up on Blu-ray. And again, like I said in the car, throw on every few years, show some friends, show some family members, say, hey, this Grinch horror movie, it's awesome. But it's just not that for me, man. It
Yeah.
just wasn't that.
Yeah, for me, it's a hard sell in terms of recommendations. We had to drive about an hour to go see this film. I cannot recommend it in any sense like that. I mean, it's an interesting concept. I'm glad these things are being brought to the forefront. At least they're getting theater releases, even if they're just limited releases. And I think this is going to be streaming at some point. So it's like, if you want to go see this and it's close to you, I say go for it. I mean, no harm in giving a little extra money to these independent films. I just want to go drive an hour away. You're probably going to feel a little left to be desired in that sense. Also, I think you'd be also comfortable waiting for this to be streaming somewhere and just to kind of watch it from the comfort of your own home. I think it could be worth a watch just to see, this version of the Grinch. And I mean, it gets the brain going in terms of, yeah, like Dylan said, a lot of things left on the table. And, we walked out of there thinking of so much potential, for stories to be told from this concept. But yeah, this isn't one I'm going to pick up on Blu-ray. I don't think I'm going to be revisiting it. It was just, I don't know, disappointment for me, especially watching a lot of the things we have over the past little bit here. Even looking into Thanksgiving, where they lean into the wildness and, how off the wall that film is, and they own it. Where it's like, I thought that's what they were going to be doing here.
That's
but
what
they
I
didn't.
hoped for with this.
Yeah, and they didn't own it. They tried to tell a more down story, which I don't know necessarily if it worked that well. I mean, obviously it didn't. But it's like I really wish they would have leaned at least into something a little off the wall like that. So overall, yeah, disappointment for me. If you want to go check it out and it's close to you, I say, hey, go for it. But that's a hard recommendation for me.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys, that's gonna wrap us up here for our review of The Mean One. Yeah, definitely was hoping for a little bit more, but hey, you win some, you lose some, and we have had some big wins this year, so it's unfortunate that we're kind of coming here with another one. Tomorrow we are going to be able to come home after we wrap up our work days, check out Christmas Bloody Christmas, which looks like another fun one. So we get another shot at some redemption here for the weekend. But yeah, if you guys are excited for any of that, or you are just coming to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We're still gaining here. We just cracked over 500 subscribers, so thank you guys very much for that. And like I said, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. We are building up here with consistent reviews, podcasts, videos, and more. As well as follow us on our social media at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at SplatterCastPod. Keep up with all the latest and greatest. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap us up here for this. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
He's slippery, he's elusive, he's a mean one, that mister.